you know, as African people, I just I just wish that, and this goes for us all in the diaspora. We need to love each other more, and we need to be happy for each other more, send good vibrations to each other. Because if we do that, just imagine what we could look like globally.
Right.
You know, working together is very important to me, and that's the spirit I move in. I don't understand, and it just still hurts me to this day. I don't understand why we want to hurt each other on any kind of level. On any kind of level. I don't wish bad even on my enemy to have them fail or something happen to them. I just move on. I just move out of that space. And so I just want us to move more towards that. Yeah.
Wow.
My name is Queen Mother Nana Akosua Sechiabia the First. Yes, I'm a queen mother in a town on the other side of a brewery. And I was installed as a queen mother back in 2005.
2005.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So you've been in Ghana for a very long time.
Well, I was traveling back and forth, and I decided to settle here in 2021.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me, why Ghana? Why did you choose to visit Ghana or maybe come to Ghana?
Well, I'm a Pan-Africanist, I will start off by saying. I was raised by a mother who always told us to make sure we knew where we came from. And she would always tell us that we're Africans. Never forget that. And so that cultivated my ideas about Africa in a very positive way. I remember my mother saying, I don't remember the dream. She said I was a little girl and I had a dream that I was living in Africa, and I had a big house with a red door and a leopard as a cat.
Wow.
As a pet. I don't remember the dream, but that's what my mother tells me. So it's just been in me, and I just think it's our DNA. It's in our DNA.
Right.
Now they're saying that. Well, they've been saying it for a while now, about the past 20 years or so, that water has memory, and our bodies are made up of so much percentage of water.
Right.
And so DNA has memory. DNA has memory because when you have a child, why does the child come out looking like you?
Right.
Because it has memory.
Yes.
And so whether it was good or bad, we remember things in our subconscious in a state and a plane that a lot of us probably can't tap into all the time.
Right.
And so I've always had this fascination with Africa. When I watched the Wizard of Oz, I would click my heels 3 times, and home was Africa for me. I wish I was home.
Wow.
So I've always been drawn. My ancestors, I feel like, had a big play in bringing me back home. Yes, and so that's a lot of us here.
Well, I basically tell people, or maybe the diasporas, that Africa is really a safe continent for you to come, because you know what? I always keep telling you. If you like watching my videos, you see that I keep telling you, pack your bags and come to Ghana. Don't worry, if you don't have a place to sleep, I will give you a place to sleep. So just pack your bag and come to Ghana. But let's talk about the experience in Ghana so far. You being in Ghana from 2025 and now 2024 now. How does it look like?
2005.
Yeah.
To
2005,
to
yeah,
current.
2005 to current now. Yeah.
When I first came here, was with the invitation of a coworker who had retired and moved back home to Ghana. He was Ghanaian, and he kept saying, "Come see me." And so I came to see him, and I said, "This is it."
Yeah.
I had already traveled to Egypt, and I loved Egypt. And I saw my people there, but not like here. So when you get on the plane, it's like, oh my God, you don't understand how it's like for us in America, where we are the minority.
Right.
And then you get on a plane and everybody is like looking like you, and then you land and it's just the same thing. It was just an amazing experience.
Wow.
And you asked me what it's been like, right? That was the question. So yeah, it was just a wonderful experience. The changes I've seen, Ghana is so developed. It's developing. When
Right.
I first got here and I was thinking about relocating here in 2004 is when I first arrived. I cried because I couldn't find a bag of potato chips. I was addicted to potato chips, you know. And so I was like, oh my God. So it's just so many things you didn't have here.
Yeah.
And so, and I know that's minute and
Mhm.
like really minor,
Yeah.
but it's just things, you know, if I was going to cry over potato chips, what else was it going to be? You know,
Well-
what else can I get used to? And so, but on the other hand, the people being home, the greenery, the freshness of the food, you know, back when I first came, I was a vegan.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. I was like, you know, my king would say, oh, she only eats leaves. There was no word for vegan or vegetarianism.
Yeah.
So, but I loved it. And I just, when I first came, my only thought was, how was I going to financially be ready to come back? And that's important because over the years, I've seen people come and go, and because they're not ready. And you have to be ready. You have to have a plan. So I strategically planned how I was going to relocate and be successful. I didn't want to just relocate just to relocate. Some people just want to be here and just enjoy it. I just wanted to be successful. And I wanted to be successful so I can bring my family back.
Right.
You know, I have my mom wants to come, my children want to come. So I just want to make this a pleasant place for them where they don't have to worry about finances.
Yeah, more than 10 years now, at least you've been in Ghana, you've experienced Ghana, you've experienced Africa and so forth. You had an ambition of bringing some of your family members to Ghana as well. So have you per chance brought any of them to Ghana?
Yeah, my children have been here. My mother has been here. My daughter lived with me here for 6 months last year. Yeah.
Wow.
And she liked it. No, it wasn't last year. It was during COVID. And she went back because she wanted to finish school because she couldn't finish school while COVID was going on.
Yeah.
But she plans on moving here, you know, settling down. She's into fashion and design.
Oh, wow. So definitely, I think your boutique now, your daughter can at least be sewing certain things, and then we can sell it over here.
Yes, exactly. She has a line right now called Biscuits and Monsters, and it does pretty well.
Wow.
Hers is unusually unique. She didn't take after her mother's African trend.
Yeah.
Because I raised them up wearing African clothes and all this. So she didn't. She's doing her own thing, and I appreciate that. You know.
You know, sometimes it's obvious. Nana was also doing what I was also doing, just like we having this conversation. At first, there was no podcast. She was doing a radio show and so forth. So now I am hosting this program, and she is my guest. So I'm interviewing her. Nana, so tell me about your radio show that you were doing way back.
Yeah, it was called Finding Spirit, and it was on Interlight Radio and Living in Black Radio on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't even keep up with them anymore. I don't know how they're doing because I'm just so busy just doing so many other things.
Right.
But my show concentrated on the African diaspora. It was started in 2005 after I was installed as a queen mother. And so we focused on the African diaspora. We talked about culture, businesses, people starting businesses in Africa. I didn't just focus on Ghana. I focused on the continent,
Right.
the diaspora, the Caribbean, South and Central America. I had guests on from. I connected our culture, the culture here in Ghana, to our culture in the Americas. A lot of people say we don't have culture there, but it's not true. We held on to a lot of things. And a matter of fact, our culture, African culture, is woven into the fabric of American culture, but it's just been deemed as American culture now. Like I found out a couple of things in researching my grandmother and her generation before. They all carried rabbit foots for good luck on a keychain or whatever. And I said, you know what? I want to do that. I want to bring that. That was part of our tradition in America. I want to bring it back. And so in doing the research, I found out that it came from enslaved Africans.
Yeah.
Because when they were planning on running from the plantation or escaping, they would get the foot of a fast animal and hold on to it to make them run fast.
Right.
And I'm like, wow. So that made me want to get it even more. And then there's another tradition we do, mostly in the South, because I said I wanted to do that in a tree here. But you'll see a tree with these beautiful glass bottles hanging from it. And it'll be different colors. We do that a lot in the South. And I said, when I get my house here, I'm going to have a tree and I'm going to put the bottles, but I didn't know what it was about.
Yeah.
But do you have any idea why? This folk art tradition can be traced back to the 9th century in the Congo people, but it migrated to the United States in the 17th century with the African slave trade. Legends say that blue bottles have healing powers, and others say that evil spirits that are surrounding your home will find their way into the bottles and become trapped.
And so when I looked it up, found out it came from the Congo. And you put it by your house to catch bad negative spirits in the bottle so it won't enter your house. And I'm like, whoa. So, a lot of things we kept going, but we didn't know where it came from. And it's part of American culture now because all races do it now in certain areas, but we just didn't know it was African. Even mama, everybody in America says mama. They don't say mother. Mama's African. Yeah.
Well, I can see your program or maybe your show that you've been doing on radio. It's kind of linking up with mine that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to ask you this very question. On your journey doing this kind of radio program and so forth, at least you might have had these difficulties and so forth. People might have been saying negative things about you. How did it had impacts on you, and how were you able to control those kind of things?
Now see, I wasn't ready. I see you got me. I was I talked about that before we went on air, but we can talk about that. For me, I'm a very sensitive soul, but I've learned how to toughen up. You know, it's hurtful. It was very hurtful for me. It was devastating because at one point, I started a nonprofit also in 2005 after I was installed as a queen mother. And so we were doing things in Ghana. We were doing humanitarian work in Ghana, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and in Haiti after the earthquake, 2010 earthquake. So somebody accused me of taking money or something like that. And so I had to go to our Council of Elders in Los Angeles, and it was ruled in my favor. But it was very hurtful because at the time it could have taken my job that I was working as. And just it hurts your reputation. And as African people, I just wish that, and this goes for us all in the diaspora, we need to love each other more, and we need to be happy for each other more, send good vibrations to each other, because if we do that, just imagine what we could look like globally.
Right.
Working together is very important to me, and that's the spirit I move in. I don't understand, and it just still hurts me to this day. I don't understand why we want to hurt each other on any kind of level. I don't wish bad even on my enemy to have them fail or something happen to them. I just move on. I just move out of that space. And so I just want us to move more towards that. Yeah.
Wow. So how were you perchance able to bridge the gap between the African culture and also the Western culture as well? Since you said you were into this Pan-Africanism stuff and so forth, just like me, how were you able to bridge those gaps? Because definitely I know there is American culture and there is also African culture. So when you are dealing with these two people, there are similarities and also differences. So how were you able to bridge all those gaps to deal with the other side?
I just became very African, and they just had to accept that. I was a police officer, Los Angeles Police Department. Okay. A lot of people don't like us.
Just like my dad.
Really?
Yeah, my dad was a police officer.
Okay.
He just retired just this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I decided at one point that I just wanted to be me. So I was the first person to get locks on the job. do my hair natural. I didn't want to put any more chemicals. I never did the chemicals, but I would do the press and curl.
Right.
I didn't want to do that anymore. I changed my name legally in 2002 to Nihanda Nzinga Aliti Aset Sankofa Ra, which is on my all my documents here.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring more of the African culture to people that just knew me, from other cultures and other backgrounds.
Right.
Because in America, you know, they took our names away from us. And then when our African brothers and sisters come, they don't want to use their names because they feel like it's too difficult for people to pronounce.
Right.
So they're George, Patrick, whatever.
The Noah,
Yes. And I said, it's a shame because, especially in California, America is a melting pot of all these different cultures. And we know how to say Rodriguez and all these other names, but our names just kind of get faded away in the background. And I believe that names are power, and we infuse and energize our ancestors when we call ourselves by our names. And so I wanted to do that. And at one point, I worked with the city attorney office closely as an investigator, and one of the city attorney supervisors, he would make fun of my name when I changed it. He would always go, "Nee ha 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 ha." And I'm like, so one day we were in a meeting and he was talking about how he has this photographic memory and he never forgets a thing. And so I said, well, I find that very amusing because you can't even remember my name. It's Nihanda, not Nihaha. And he turned red. He's a white gentleman. And he turned red. And everybody was looking at me like, I dare you say that to him. And my supervisor, he was a Russian guy. He started laughing. He thought it was the funniest thing. And he, when we left, he was like, good job. So, our names are not funny. Yeah. Our culture is not funny.
Right.
And so we have to be proud of it. And we have to make our ancestors proud. Everything we do, we need to think about that. What would our ancestors think? That's what I do. And that's how I walk on this planet.
Well, let's talk about your citizenship thing. How is the experience and how were you able to apply the citizenship to become a Ghanaian?
Okay. So I apply. We have different community leaders in throughout Ghana that you can go to put your name on a list. And so I went to our community leader here. I call him my community leader. I don't know if he calls himself that, but brother and Nana Rabbi Kohen. And so he put me on a list. And it just so happens 4 days before they were talking about doing the interviews, I was departing to go to America. I was going there to assist my mother to return to move to Ghana.
Okay.
And so my name popped up 4 times for an interview. I had already did the police background check. Right. And I didn't think I was going to get it. And I literally started crying. I didn't know it was that important to me. And my husband says to me, why are you crying? I said, because I'm not going to get my citizenship because I'm here in this place that I don't want to be in, So it turns out I talked to a rabbi and I said, listen, I come back on the 8th of November. And it was past the point of interviews and whatnot. He said, I'll work it out for you. So he got me an appointment for when we got off the airplane. At that, we landed around 7 a.m. I went over to the Ministry of Interior, and they had a strike. And I was panicking again. I'm like, what? A strike? So the security guard says, let me go inside and see if there's anyone here that can help you. And sure enough, 2 of the people I needed were there. They were cleaning up their office or something. So I got my interview and my biometrics done. And I'm like the happiest woman in the world right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You made mention of your husband. Is your husband a Ghanaian or maybe an American?
Oh, my husband is Ghanaian.
Wow.
So
kind of America and Ghana.
Yeah.
So tell me about the story. How did you meet him?
How did I meet him? So, I do tours.
Okay.
We have licensed it, but back then, we were just coming. But it's called Mansa Musa Tours.
Mansa Musa.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mansa Musa Tours.
Okay.
And but at the time, I was just doing a group of friends, people from the States. And I was on a tour over at One Africa. It's no longer with us anymore. I'm sad about that. And he was doing a tour because he was a tour guide as well.
Okay.
And he was staring at me. No. That before he was staring at me. I stayed inside of the house with in One Africa, and I was leaving out my door, and he was standing there, and I was like, "May I help you?" And he was looking for somebody that was on his tour, and I'm like, "No, they're not here." So I went out, took my shower, came back, and he was there again. And I thought he was stalking me. I was like getting scared. And he said, "Oh, I just wanted to know." He had one of the people on this group with him. She was a sister from Jamaica, and she was smiling. And he said, "I just wanted to know if you wanted to go to a party." I'm like, "A party? No, I don't want to go to a party." So I saw him the next day at the hotel and in his group, and I asked them, were they doing anything cultural?
Yeah.
And because we were having something in my village, in my community, as my chief likes to call it, our community. And I should say king, my king. He also likes to be called king, and he's rightfully so. I can tell you that in a little bit. But so I invited them. I gave them my number and invited them to come out, and we just kind of kept in touch with each other. And I don't know if I should say this.
No, say it.
So I just enjoyed his conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I've been traveling throughout Africa for many years, Caribbean, everything, and I'm not. It's just men kind of gravitate to me sometimes, and it's all good. But most of the time I just dismiss them, because I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I said when I move to Ghana, that's when I want to be ready to get into a relationship again.
Right.
And so we talked every day. We talked about Pan-Africanism, African spirituality, history, and so African history. And so it was an enjoyable conversation, And so one day he sent me this picture of him with no shirt on. And he's got a nice little shape going on, and I'm like, ah. I called him and I said, why did you send me this picture? Because I'm thinking we're just friends, I didn't know he was liking me. And he said, "Oh, because I like you, and I'm like, oh." And I got off the phone and I blocked him. I blocked him, and I just like, and so after a week goes by, I'm like, I really miss his conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called him back, and he was like, "I'm so happy you called me back." And that was it. And so it just so happened someone knew him. He was doing, at the time, he was making videos for different entertainers and whatnot. Yeah. So someone knew him and said, "Oh, I know this guy. He's pretty nice. He's a good guy."
Yeah.
And it was an African American guy. He said, "Yeah." He said, "I've never seen him chase women or anything like that. I think you're okay." And I was like, "I don't know."
Mm-hmm.
But so I gave him a chance. And it's kind of scary for us as Americans because you hear so many horror stories.
Right.
Oh, he just wants your money. Oh, if you marry him and take him to America, he's going to leave you at the airport. No, I have a girlfriend that had a story like that. She said that her friend in Ghana married a Ghanaian man, and the moment he kept asking her about citizenship, and she said the moment that she brought him to America, he disappeared in the airport and she never saw him again. I mean, could you imagine receiving those kind of stories all the time?
Yeah, so it's kind of negative impacting your.
Yes, and then that 90-day fiance visa, whatever show came out, and people was calling me, Did you see, girl, did you see? And so I love my sisters, I do, but I tell anyone, if they're going to get into a relationship with not just a Ghanaian, but anyone that's foreign, for me, I told you earlier, I'm into African spirituality. I don't know if I messed up my mic.
Okay. Yeah.
So I did a reading.
Mm-hmm.
I did a reading on him, and I just wanted to see, and it just came out with an amazing future for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to listen or hear anything else, because if you want to give a relationship a chance, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, it worked.
And so I literally cut off some of my friends. I
Right.
love them. I love you, sisters, but I had to cut you off because the negativity
Yeah.
really impacts your soul.
Right.
And you'll start finding yourself in arguments about things because of something that you think is happening. It's
Right.
just like the mind is an incredible thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to totally get rid of that negative energy, because that's what it is. I had to get rid of it, and I had to live in the moment. And I said to myself, if he comes to America with me and Ron, oh well. You know, I pray for him, and I hope he does well.
Situation, so
Yeah, I hope he does well.
Yeah, well, that's true.
But 8 years later, we're still together.
Wow, 8 years.
Yeah, we're still together, and I love him.
And he loves you too. I
And
think he loves
me.
you too. I've
Yes.
never had a chance to meet him, but I think
Yeah.
he will also love you.
And he's been very instrumental at everything and my goals and dreams in Ghana here. He's helped me so much.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well, so at least you being in Ghana and also America, no country is perfect. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
There might be negatives or maybe ups and downs in every country. You being in Ghana, what are the challenges have you faced, and how did you also overcome all those challenges?
Well, I have an over 2,000 book library where I thought I had really on the African diaspora and culture and everything. And I thought I really prepared myself, but nothing prepares yourself like traveling to that place. So that was one of the things I did. And even though I read everything I can read, I read everything on the internet, books, talk to people, interview, even all my interviews were preparing me for this moment,
Mm-hmm.
And it still doesn't prepare you, because I still kind of made some errors in some things. One being land.
Well, there's no perfection.
Yeah. So I am now the proud owner of 5 acres of land.
Wow.
An acre in a brewery, in my village. And 4 acres in Dutch Camenda.
Wow.
Right on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it was challenging. And then I have a plot my chief gave me. He gave me a couple of plots. So that wasn't a problem. But I didn't want to live exactly in my village. So I picked a village behind it, okay, which is still in the mountains. You can still have a view of Accra. But I had problems with that land. And then I had problems with the land on the beach. I bought that land in 2021, and I'm just now building my house. I started building my house in April because I was having problems with it. And there are horror stories out there, and I want to tell my people that, sometimes, well, I'll tell you my story. The land on the beach, I belong to an organization in the U.S. called African Focus. And what we do is it's kind of like an installment or an adoption of descendants of the slave trade into African families. And so every year we have a chief that presides over it in a different African country. So one year we had a chief out of Florida that was Ghanaian. And he kept telling me, Nana, you want some beachfront land? Come get it. And so I was responsible for him. Anytime royals came in, I was responsible for them, making sure they ate, took them around the restaurants, things like that. The hotel was set. So I trusted him. And I kind of went into it blindly. I did. And I knew better. That was the bad part about me. That I just hit myself over the head. I knew better. And so I purchased the land. And I don't know if it's a lot that goes on with this. I don't know if it's, I don't want to talk bad about him because I don't think he knew. But we just had a little problems with acquiring the land. And it even got to the point where we had to go to the police. But we eventually got our land. Yeah, it worked out for the best. But what it was, they had given us land, and then it turns out it was somebody else's land. Yeah. And it happened to us twice. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So they worked it out with someone else who had a lot of beachfront land.
Yeah.
And so we just did a transfer of name.
Yeah.
And I was able to get everything. Yeah. So, but it was scary because I spent a lot of money on that land and I was heartbroken. And so I understand what people go through. But, like I said, I did my readings and whatnot and said, this is what you're going to have. This is what's going to happen to
Right.
you. But I will never, ever do things like that again. So I tell people, do everything right. I would get an attorney from the area. I would, I did a search.
Yeah.
I did do a search. I did a
Right.
search of the land, and it came back in that person's name, and some signatures were missing from my indentures that I didn't know about. So it took a couple of months to get those signatures. By the time I got those signatures, somebody else had registered the land in their name.
Wow.
I
You
can
know,
laugh about it now, but it was really, I was so stressed out.
this land thing in Ghana is kind of a little
Mm,
bit of skeptical sometimes when you are dealing with
yeah,
land issues. Myself, I deal with land issues. I've been buying land for diasporas and so forth. So basically, I do my search. It takes me so many months,
hmm
days before I come into conclusion. Okay, this land is good for me to buy for this diaspora or maybe these people. So basically,
you do.
I always advise people when you want to do business, you can even contact me with your land and everything. We can do business with you. You can even send us to go check your land for you. We do that freely. Sometimes at least you pay a little bit of consultation fee for us for our
Yeah.
transport and so forth, and we do that for you. But it is what it is. If you don't know the system, somebody might just take your money and run away with it.
Absolutely. And I have a Ghanaian husband.
Yeah. So now,
And I know, it's happened to Ghanaians that I know too who
yeah,
lived in the States for a long time and
right.
come back home. I have a Ghanaian friend. He bought 100 acres of land and he ended up with 10 acres after it was all over.
Wow.
Yeah. So it happens, but you have to do your due diligence and it'll work out for you. You can have your dream here in Ghana. Yeah. And if I can give my diasporans a little bit of advice, I noticed there's some type of itis when we finally come to Ghana or Africa. We're very trusting of our African brothers and sisters, and for the most part, 99.9% of our brothers and sisters are honest. But when you're a foreigner, kind of you attract a certain kind of energy of people that just wants to get money and things like that. So you have to be careful. I've seen people lose a lot of money, 58,000 US, 20,000 US, and you just have to be careful. Just follow all the steps. And I give advice to people now too because I don't want to see that happen to anyone. I just put on a seminar where we had the lands commissioner, the head of the lands commission, come out, and immigration and police commander, so we could just sit down with a bunch of ladies and just talk to them about how to properly do things because I love my people.
Right.
I'm in love with being an African. I'm in love with being black. So I just don't want to see that happen to anybody because people coming here, especially retirees, that's all their money,
Yeah.
and it's just gone, and it leaves them devastated, and it leaves them with a bad taste in their
And
mouth.
that is where they say negative things about Africa.
Yes, and then Ghanaians here, and they're like, "What you can, So we don't want that kind of energy. But for the most part, um, I've had a wonderful experience in Africa, in Ghana. I love my brothers and sisters, starting with my king who instilled me as a queen mother. I remember he's been so beneficial and helpful to me. I've heard people say, "Why do you want to be a queen mother? You were trying to take your money." It hasn't been that way for me. For me, I can't talk for anyone else. But my king, when he instilled me, when he first called me, I met him in 2004 and we became friends. And back then you had to use the little cards to call, so you couldn't call that much. So we would email each other a lot. And one day he emailed me and he says, "You know more about Africa than I do," because I would send him articles and things because I did research,
Yeah.
for my show. And then one day he called me and he said, "We want to instill you as a queen mother." And I'm like, "Well, what does that even mean? What does that mean?" So I've always made it a point to have friends from the diaspora. So I picked up the phone, called some of my Ghanaian friends, and asked them. They said, "It's an honor." I said, "It's an honor." I said, really? So I was like, they must want something from me. Because as a police officer, you deal with negativity all the time.
At
And
least you
so
need to
you have to get some
investigate.
filters.
Right.
You got to learn how to be a normal person again, especially since I've left there. And so I said, okay, again, I did a reading. And so it came back that it would be a good thing. And it's been very beneficial for me. So, for years, I didn't know what exactly he had did for me. And I'm going to tell you something that I don't tell everybody. So he told me that they have a legend in their area that a queen mother named Sechiabia was taken away and to the Americas, and that the legend says that one day her descendant will come back and be a queen and take
her throne.
Yeah. So he told me the story, and and he says, but not only are you her descendant, I'm a reincarnation of her.
Right.
Whoa, that's heavy, right? Someone tells you that, what do you think?
You guys look similar, it's
What do you think? So I said, oh, okay. So I was just like, okay, and that's what launched my radio show, because I was on a radio show and they asked me if I wanted to come back and do a show. I was like, sure. So things started really, my life changed 360 in a good way. And so, I would run into other kings and queens from the diaspora, and they would say, I'm a king, queen too. Or they called into the radio station when I would be on, and my chief would call in and said, no, you're not the same. That's what he would say. And I couldn't understand what he was talking about. So it took a brother by the name of Shabazz at One Africa and Rabbi Kohen. One day they were asking me, they said, Nana, what kind of queen mother are you? I didn't know. I was like, I can't remember the title. So I called my chief. He said, Ankobia Hema, you're Ankobia Hema. So Shabazz says, let's see your pictures. So I'm being carried in the palanquin and whatnot. He's like, Nana, he said, not everybody has a title like that. I'm like, really?
And not even any queen mother is being carried in a palanquin.
Right. So I said to myself, wow, my king is really special. So he told me, he kept telling me, you have a black stool. What does that mean, I have a black stool? What does that mean? I probably shouldn't be saying that on the air, right? But he says, you have a black stool. And so I had to ask him, I think sometimes I don't really understand him. So there's a little bit of a language barrier. His English has got much better over the years. He's been to America and everything. I said, you have a black stool. And so do you understand what a black stool is? So I'll just leave it at that. Or should I go into it a little bit?
Well, maybe you can just explain it too.
Yeah, so a black stool is a stool that's been recycled. Or my stool has been recycled for hundreds of years. And it's only given to a certain royals in a family. Like we have a lot of kings and queens in our village. And so I think there's only 7 of us with a black stool. Yeah. And basically, it became black because of sacrifices. I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you had a whole lot to say, but I still have to ask you a few more questions about Africa and also America as well. You being a police officer in America, we know, or maybe we've been hearing things, we've been watching things in America, or maybe in the news concerning violence and so forth in America and also Ghana. Being a police officer in America, and when you compare these two sides, America and Ghana, where do you think the violence is going on, and how many people have you also arrested so far as you being a police officer in America?
So policing in America is very different. Violence in America is very different. To me, it's more violent in America. Yeah, that's my opinion. That's actually a fact if you look at statistics, unless you delve into South Africa. But in Ghana, you have fraudulent activities going on, but you don't have a lot of murders. It's a lot of murder, a lot of rapes, home invasion robberies, things like that. that go on in America. We don't really have that too much here. I think it's an uptick in it, which kind of scares me. But I think things are handled pretty well here, and I think it has a lot to do with the moral fabric of the country. Yeah, in America, just the name, it was founded in violence. So it's got this karmic thing that's going on with it. And I think until, my humble opinion, I think until they make peace with what really happened in that country, I mean, our ancestors, the Native American people, our blood is drenched in the soil there. And if something has to be, they have to make a peace with that. And until they do, it's just going to continue to get worse.
Being a queen mother, I have a whole lot of questions for you. Being a queen mother, I know you are an American. The fact that you have the same skin color with us, so let me put it this way. Some Ghanaians think you are an American. For me, I know you are an African. Okay, or maybe you are one of me. So I don't have any problem with that. But in terms of you being a queen mother, you might be living in a Fanti community or maybe a Twi community or Gan community. How do you communicate with your people? You said your chief can speak English, but how about the other people? How do you communicate with the community or maybe the other chiefs that are, what do you call it, the sub chiefs that are also with you?
You know, with a smile.
Mhm.
There's been some communication issues, but it's not major.
Mhm.
I haven't found it as major. I always get around it. I blame myself a lot too because after all these years, I still haven't learned the language well, and so, or one of the languages well. And so I told myself in January, especially after being in student, I'm going to take that very seriously, because I don't like being in the palace and things are going on and I don't know what's going on around me.
Right.
My husband has been a big help for that. But I remember when I first sat in on a town hall kind of meeting, you know how they do once a month.
Yeah.
And when I first came back to live permanently, and I had never been to one. In all these years, I'd never been to one. So I'm sitting there, and it got to a point where it looked like people were about to fight, and it was over land. And for me, I didn't know what was going on. It was a little nerve wracking. So I just wanted to know what was going on. So I miss out on a lot. And it's my fault. It's totally my fault. Sometimes I say I'm too busy, but I have to really sit down and take the time to really engulf myself in the language. Yeah. But I haven't had any problems up until now. I usually get around it some kind of way, or there's someone there that can help me. And most people speak English, so yeah. Yeah. Most people I found, sometimes you think people understand what you're saying and they don't.
Hmm.
They'll be just like, uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, my final three questions that I
Okay.
want to ask you, then maybe we can close this interview. I know we are in this very boutique. Let's talk about this because I know this is a nice place. Is this your business?
Yeah, my husband and I decided to open up. We have plans for something else, but we haven't been able to do it because we're using the land to do it. And so we decided just to do something in the medium, and this is it. We just opened up. My husband and I like fashion. On the college campus, you have a lot of children or young youth that wear the westernized clothes. So that's what we do here. But we do have like bags made in Africa, African sandals, African clothes that we design and make, and we want to get more of those into, and we want to do African Western fusion, like African cloth, and make some kind of Western designs for the youth, so we can keep our culture alive as far as kind of like this. This is like a fusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and then that way we, Africans are some of the most innovative people on the planet. And we're always, when you're looking back thinking you got something, we've moved on. And so I just want to be a part of that creative side and create some things. Yeah. And we have our own line. So our store is called Money Tree.
Mm-hmm.
and we have Money Tree, our own line,
Wow.
and we also have Mansa Musa Tours, which is www.mansamusatours.com.
Wow.
And we
That's
specialize. We don't only do, but we specialize in VIP tours for like VIP people.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So basically, you are married to a Ghanaian man now.
Mhm.
So at least you might have hear him saying so many Ghanaian languages and so forth.
So many Ghanaian what?
Languages.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. He speaks like 5.
Good. You've also tasted so many Ghanaian food.
Mhm.
So I know definitely you might be a chief chef or cook, which is which. Well, let's go on. I want you to speak 5 key languages and explain it in English for us to hear.
Oh, I told you I can't do that.
No,
You mean 5 languages?
Yes, okay, 5 words, not languages.
Oh, words.
Okay, 5 words.
Ha.
Let me break it down.
Okay. Okay. I want to say,
So how what's the meaning?
how are you?
Let's go. 1.
Okay. Miho ye.
Okay.
Apume. Mito.
Wow. Well,
I think I passed the test.
you passed. You passed. Now, you have tasted Ghanaian dishes, right? So which one is your favorite?
Oh, hands down, red.
All right.
I love me some red.
Good.
And Killer Willy.
You love red and Killer Willy.
And groundnut soup.
Good. 3.
Those are my
Good.
3 faves.
All right.
My husband makes them for me all the time, and I dabble.
Okay.
I make some too.
Okay.
But we both can cook.
All
We're
right.
like, you were talking about good cooking. We can cook.
Good. You are a good cook.
Yes.
Pas la problème. Now, red, Killer Willy, and groundnut soup. You narrate how all those things are being prepared.
Oh, you want me to do that?
Yes. Starting with the red.
So the red, we started with a little bit of palm oil in the pot, and we cut up some really nice onions and garlic and put in there, and then we used the food processor or blender, and we put in our tomatoes, onions, garlic, peppers, and we like our stuff spicy, just like our life. And so we put all that in the blender, blend it up, mix it in with the palm oil, let it simmer some. We put in our seasonings, special herbs and seasoning. I can't devote that over the air. And then we cook we call them in America the peas. We call them black-eyed peas. Yeah, it was one of my favorites in America too. And so that's another thing we brought from Africa with us. Mostly only black people eat black-eyed peas. We eat it with okra. And so, we cook it, and then you can add a little salted meat to give it some more seasoning, enhance the seasoning or not. And I don't like it when I'm not a big fan of the salted fish, which I know is a really big Ghanaian thing. And then let it simmer and cook around, let the juices mix with each other, and you got your red.
Okay.
Did I do good?
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
Let's go on with the Killer Willy.
Oh, the Killer Willy. So you want to start with a softer plantain.
Yeah.
And you cut it. You have to cut it a certain way. My mother-in-law showed me this. It's a certain way you cut it and slice it, and then you grind up some ginger and garlic, and kind of saute it in your oil, and then you add your peanuts.
No.
No.
You got it wrong.
I got it wrong. What did I miss? Am I missing a step?
Wrong. Start again.
No. Okay. I'll go a little deeper. When you cut your plantains, you put it in water first, and then you put a little salt on top of it and let it just sit there for a while before you fry it. Okay.
No, you still got it wrong. Where's your husband?
What did I do wrong? No, I want to know what I did wrong. You have to tell me.
You got it
'Cause I
wrong.
think you pulling my leg.
You
Did
know
I get
what?
it wrong?
Yes, you got it wrong.
Okay, tell me what I
Okay,
did
you know
wrong.
what a Aklevi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you cut the plantains, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you grind the ginger and also the peppers and
Oh, I
everything
forgot the
together.
pepper.
So you got it wrong. So you mix it
How
up.
could I forget the pepper?
You so you mix it up with a plantain before you fry.
Yeah, I would have been in trouble if I did that at home.
So now let's go with the granite soup.
Ah,
Uh-huh.
okay, the ground-up soup. Oh, my husband's gonna be listening to this one. So, so you start off with the same. We call it a roux in America, but
Mhm.
it's like the garlic, pepper, ginger,
Yeah.
onions
Mhm.
in the blender, and you saute it the same, and then you add peanut butter.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you add your peanut butter and your meat to season it, your seasoning, and you cook it. You add water to it to get it a little, soupy. I like mine thick. My husband likes his thin.
Mhm.
A dilemma. Okay, so he usually, when he makes it thick for me the first day, and then next day we add water to it. Yeah, and then I had a real hard fast lesson about the hard chicken here. I never heard of hard chicken.
They have the hard chicken and
And
soft.
so yeah, so you have to boil the chicken,
Yeah.
and you have to boil it in seasoning. Put your seasoning and your spices in there, and then we fry it without any. In America, when we say fried chicken, we usually put like a flour base on it.
Yeah.
So we fry it without any flour
Mhm.
in the skillet and
Yeah.
in our oil, and then we add it to the soup.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, your final words.
My final words. It's a blessing to be here in Ghana. If you're going to come to Ghana, please, please do your due diligence. It's a wonderful place to live, many opportunities. There's other people here from other cultures that are here making a life for themselves. You can do it too. And it'll be a big reward for you. And for me, it's a full circle. First it was something that I envisioned in my head, my brain, and then I spoke it into existence. And getting my citizenship, I always knew I was an African. I didn't need anybody to clarify or justify that for me. Nobody could tell me I'm not an African, whether I was living in the States or here. But for me, our wonderful president and our government here in Ghana, by putting it in writing, that was the 360. That was the 360. So you had the thought, the spoken word, and the validation of writing it into paper. And I'm officially an African. But like I said, I didn't need that, but it helps. And it was a very memorable moment for me. And for years, I've read about my ancestors trying to get back to Africa. That was one thing they wanted to do, and they didn't have the means to do it. And so I feel like we've left all the civil rights movements and all the struggles that we had to do in America, and we've finally been able to come back home and bring our ancestors with us.
What you need, she said it all. Things happen in Africa, both negative and positive. But I keep telling you that you need to come see it yourself. Don't let anybody tell you bad things about Africa. Don't let anybody tell you good things about Africa. There's good and bad. So that is why we are doing this video to show you. We are bringing the experience and everything at your doorsteps. So don't worry. Like I said, pack your bags. Come to Ghana. If you don't have a place to sleep, just call me. I'll get you a place to sleep. Ghana is a free country. That is why we are here in Ghana and we are laughing, smiling like a wounded tiger and a chicken. So as you are watching, keep subscribing to Klevi Joe TV. Keep watching, share Klevi Joe, and make sure you come to Money Tree Boutique and purchase us too as well. We are just located at UCC, the University of Cape Coast, Ayensu road. So come do business with us. We can do delivery too for you. So as you are watching, my brother, my sister, pack your bags and come back to Ghana. Bye bye.